have it recorded. I'm just making sure that we are live. You should be able to share it because it's.
Says it's live.
Says it's live. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, my name is Erin Baer and Eric Westover is joining me. He is a good friend of mine.
Hey, what's up?
He's a sponsor of mine, encourager, friend, business partner, all the fun things. And we are here to talk about Make an Impact in 2020 campaign so you guys can learn more about it and what we're up to. So Eric, I would love for you to introduce yourself.
My name is Eric Westover, and I am a businessman, a business owner. I own a travel agency, and I also I'm an affiliate with Send Out Cards. I'm also involved with some nonprofits. I'm standing up a nonprofit right now for Great Danes. We're doing a sanctuary. So I've got my fingers in a bunch of pots. So met you through Send Out Cards, and just love your story, your mission. Just think that it is just really important to be a part of what you're doing, and I think that's important as just not only as a business owner, but as a person, to be involved with other people and with other business owners.
So Eric and I met in May through what he said, Send Out Cards, and it's a platform that we like to use to show love, kindness, and gratitude towards everybody. And he saw me in a post one day talking about my Make an Impact campaign. We were trying to fill the map up that I have with a bunch of pins, and we hadn't quite gotten every state pinned, which meant that at least one shelter in that state had received a copy of the book from Beating a Badass. And so a bunch of people were tagged that were involved in Send Out Cards and those that have sponsored before. And he was like, hey, I need to get in on this. I want to sponsor a book. How do I do that? And so we just started a conversation. We started talking about it. And we found that we had a lot in common, that we love to help people, we love good causes, and that we have to raise our voices for those that need it most, whether it be furry friends, such as Great Danes, or human beings that have been impacted by domestic violence and sexual assault, many different things. Eric hasn't actually mentioned this, and I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna put him on the spot, but he actually is an amputee. He actually lost his right arm, and there's an incredible story behind that, but he really does work with those that have also struggled with losing their limbs and those who have had disabilities, which I like to call them special, because I don't think anybody's really truly disabled. I think it's a matter of your mind and your heart, and that people can do anything and everything that they really put that towards their mind and their heart. And Eric is definitely somebody who does that. He doesn't let anything stop him. I thought he actually just lost his arm recently, but it has been quite a while. And he plays golf, he plays hockey, he plays all sorts of stuff. He can work a chainsaw like it's nobody's business. He loves his Great Danes. He started the National Great Dane Sanctuary. And so I've helped him with that. I helped him with his nonprofit raising money to go to part of that. And he helps me. So it's kind of it's a win-win for both of us, because we really truly enjoy each other's company. We like what we stand for. We believe that helping furry friends and human beings is just part of our life. And it's not something that we take lightly. We take it very seriously, because so many people can stand up for themselves, but it's those that can't stand up for themselves. And we know that God put us here to give, not to take. And that is something that we feel is part of our purpose. And so we're on here today to talk about the Make an Impact campaign in 2020, as it's titled. Beating a Badass, myself, have been on a mission to get a copy of my book from Beating a Badass into every single shelter across the country. And we started in December, and it's really starting to take off. And I have to say, getting involved in Send Out Cards and meeting people like Eric has been truly a blessing, because they're the kindest people anybody will ever meet. And if you want more information, you can contact either Eric or I. However, we're here to talk about Make an Impact. And what we want to do is really reach those impacted by domestic violence and sexual assault. So this is my book, and it talks about my journey from childhood into a tipping point of abuse, and then how did I recover and get over that. And the reason why it's so important to get a copy into the shelters is to give others hope and courage that they feel like they don't have a way out, and they're stuck in a shelter, and they think that they're the only ones, that they're isolated, that they've been victimized, and nobody understands them. And this really shines a light that they're not alone. It allows sponsors like Eric, and I'm going to let him touch on this in a minute, to really give back in a way that they never thought was possible, in a way that gives back to people they will probably never meet or never hear of or hear about. They are just really giving blindly but openly, and it lets them be the light in somebody's darkness. It lets them say, hey, you're not alone. You're not defined by your circumstances. You are a badass just like me. I've been through my hell. You know, I'm speaking as a sponsor. You know, I've been through hell, and I've been there. People have given to me, and I want to give back. Because when you sponsor a book, it's not just going to one person, it's going to the shelter. And what happens is the staff begin to read it, and they pick up on things within the book from the perspective of an advocate, as a counselor, as somebody of contact for the victims. And then they really get more tools in their tool belt to help those survivors, because maybe they're not survivors themselves. Maybe they don't understand it completely from a survivor's perspective. And now they have a tool that shows a true life story of what happened before the abuse, during the abuse, and after the abuse. They can talk on it more. And so that's what this book does. And then it gets on the shelves at the shelter, where the survivors themselves can read it, and they can say, if she can do it, if she can be a badass, then hell, I can too. So Eric, what was it that attracted you to the whole Make an Impact campaign back in May?
I think, like you said, it's just giving people hope. I kind of, as you touched on, I'm an amputee myself. Lost my arm about 16 years ago, and hope is very powerful. It can be a very powerful motivational tool for somebody that is going through, circumstances, and they feel alone. Once they understand that A, there's hope, and B, they're not alone, that is huge. That's a huge motivator for people. And like you just said, once that book hits that shelter, it stays in that shelter. So it doesn't just impact one person. That's going to impact so many people that go through that shelter. And like you said, it's not just a survivor. It can be a family member. It can be a staff person. It can be somebody that you never even thought would pick something up out of a book. But it is truly giving back to those that are in need. And for me, that's important. I want to give back. I want to be able to, people gave to me, and so this is my way of giving back. I've always wanted to help people. This is just another avenue for me that I never really thought about. And it just kind of came across, and I thought, wow, what a neat way to give back. And it kind of hit home for me. I work with addicts and people in recovery, and they have a ton of issues, and it's not just drugs and alcohol. And so we do see people that are coming out of abusive relationships. So it's so important, and it just really, your story touched my heart. And just talking to you after, and then finding out that nothing had been tagged here, and I thought, wow, I think it's just, there's no coincidence for me. Everything it happens for a reason. And so that was really important to me too. So I think it just all fell into place for me with your story, with the impact that it can have. And it's a repeatable impact that it's going to have. It's not just a one and done impact. And I think that's really important as well, to have that. I think that's such a great, um, I think that's such a great business outlook and a great way to do it is to get one book in there. If you need to get two books in there, well, great. But just to get at least one book into every shelter, I think that's just such a great way to look at things.
I love that so much. And I call it a ripple effect of repeated impact, because that truly is what it is. One person reads the book and they may go tell a friend that maybe not be in the shelter, but they know that they're impacted by something. You know, my story doesn't just cover abuse. It covers abandonment. It covers bullying. It covers infertility. It covers, you know, not feeling good enough, all the different things that we can all relate to in some way. And it just
Right.
talks about, you know, how I got through it. Really, it doesn't tell you how to do things. It just is just my story, but so many people can relate. And I think that's what's so powerful about the mission, is because, yeah, it's my story, it's the vehicle we're using, but it relates to so many people. You know, you talked about how you work with addicts and recovering addicts, and those that have been have lost, you know, their limbs and all of those, and they've been beaten down, they've been bullied, they've been abandoned, they've been abused, you know, more so. And I think it really touches home for you because you can relate to those. You know, you're a man, I'm a woman, but in all reality, we're the human race. We all have feelings. We all have been affected in some way by something that has beaten us down in life. And it's just something, it's a way for you as a person. We've never met in person. We've only met through, you know, phone calls and text messages and conversations and all of that. But we have a connection because we both know how it is to be beaten down and bullied.
Right.
And we now have a way to give back and show others like you're not alone. And I think that's the biggest thing when someone finds themselves in specific scenarios or situations, is they're like, I'm alone. What do I do? How does anybody understand, or how can anybody relate?
Right. Yeah. And I think that's important, is that it is relatable, and they can pick something up and go, they understand, you know, and it might not be the whole thing. It might just be one little piece, but that piece can be so important to that one person. It can be a huge difference to that person.
Yeah. And I mean, I've heard from some of the shelters, and I got a letter the other day, and it says, you know, this truly is a gift because this is a resource for us. This is a way we now can give back to them. Through your story, we can actually give back after we've read it. And it just, you know, my book is also sold, you know, obviously on big retailers, but I sell it mostly through my website because you're giving back twice. And I don't think people understand that you actually give back twice. So you purchase, you know, the sponsorship for $25 that covers all the costs and all the things that have to be done. But a portion of that $25 actually goes back to those impacted by domestic violence and sexual assault. So not only are you giving financially, but you're giving physically with the book. And then this just keeps on going. And I think that's even more powerful because that's how it all started. We were giving financially and we're like, well, we don't want to just toss money. We want to be able to give more. Like, how do we take that giving back further? And that's where the book came into play, because we needed the book to get into the hands of those that needed it most, the advocates, the counselors, the victims. And I think that's really awesome that we've been able to come up with that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and like you said, it is a resource, just like they said, it is a resource for them. You know, they don't consider it a book. And I think that's a huge kudos to you, that, you know, that came back, as a resource and not a book, because, you know, they look at that as something that's a teachable piece of material, to their clients, which I think is so important. They can use that as a teachable piece and say, hey, you know, while you're here, read this. You know, you can maybe relate to something in here. You know, it's not going to be the whole thing, but maybe you'll glean a piece of something out of this. You know, and that's all you need. You don't have to glean everything out of there, but you may glean just enough out of there that that's what you need to glean.
Right. And it gives them that little strength, whatever that strength is that they need to
Right.
pull from, it gives it that. And so you have actually sponsored more than once. You became what we call the Platinum Badass. You became part of the elephant herd. And at first, we just thought it was going to be a one-time thing. We thought you were going to sponsor once, and you're like, no, I actually want to do this repeatedly. So what made you make that decision and say, you know what? This is so important to me, and it's so important to those that I'm able to impact. I want to keep being a part of this. What made you decide that?
I think here, in South Carolina, we have a very, very bad reputation for abuse. And for that reason, and knowing that, it's so important that we get your books in the shelters here in South Carolina. And I knew that right away. And that's why I asked you, has anybody done anything here in South Carolina? And you were like, no. And I'm like, well, we're like number 5. And
Number
so,
5.
yeah, we're the 5th worst in the nation as far as deaths and abuse. And I'm like, that has to stop. So that's really what made me kind of jump on board, and knowing that nobody had sponsored in South Carolina yet. So that kind of sealed the deal for me.
Yeah, in South Carolina, it's not a small state, but it's not a large state. And there's actually 13 shelters and organizations, 13 shelters. And when we discovered that, you and I, when we uncovered how few
Right.
there were with the amount of abuse that actually takes place, that really was like saddening. I mean, I was just like heartbroken, because here it is, we're number 5 on the nation in South Carolina. You are, because you live in South Carolina, I live in Colorado. But when we found that out, it was heartbreaking. It was devastating. And to you, you're like, okay, well, that has to be my focus. I will, be in this until for sure at least every shelter has one copy, if not more. And I think that's important, is people don't understand the prevalence of abuse within their own states. I mean, Colorado, we are a bit of a bigger state. Maybe I'm not sure demographically, but we have 39 shelters in Colorado, and we take it very seriously. And, not saying that we are the best by far when it comes to the legality of convicting, the monsters and all of that, but we're ahead of South Carolina, and we need to get all the states in agreement of like, hey, this is an important issue. This is something that needs to be talked about and addressed, and not just shoved at the side. So when we found out that South Carolina was number 5, I think that probably was like heart-wrenching, because I guarantee people that have been victimized or abused or raped or whatnot.
There isn't, we see it all the time. There's not enough beds to go around. There's never enough beds to go around for people, and people get shuffled. And they're, especially for survivors of domestic abuse, you want somewhere that's safe. You want somewhere that is that nobody knows where they are, and that you can't do that when you only have so many shelters and you're shuffling these people around. They're going to get found. And that's huge in these kinds of cases, where you have to get these people safe, and you have to get them out to a place that nobody knows where they are.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to me that, we stay on this mission, we stay on top of it, and we keep going until we have accomplished our mission. But even then, we're going to be like, okay, well, how do we give more after this? Like, how do we keep giving and really resolve the issues, convict those that need to be convicted, allow the victims to heal and become survivors, and then thrive in society, to give back and to raise their voice. I was talking to somebody the other day, and on a podcast that I was being interviewed on, and it was a lot of people wonder, why doesn't she just leave, or why doesn't he just leave, because men are victims as well. And it's not that simple. That's when they're most dangerous, most vulnerable. And that's when a lot of lives are lost, and it's not as easy as black and white. And so I think, we're doing what we can right now with the resources we have, but we also have to hold our state representatives accountable. We have to write our congressman. We have to say, hey, we need to believe her or him, rather than asking, you know, what were they wearing, or how were they acting, or what did they do to deserve this? We need to start asking, why did they choose to abuse?
Right.
You know, and really believe the victim. And instead of re-victimizing them, getting them to safety, getting them in the shelters, getting them to read a survivor's book. And
Right.
then from there, you know, the progression can happen.
Right. Yep. Yep. And that's, I think that's definitely, like you were saying, what's next. And I think there's definitely that's the progression of where, you know, I can see this going is, you know, definitely talking to lawmakers and, you know, that's just, you know, kind of your next progression. And you and I have talked about it too. And just, that's kind of where it's going. But I think you'll always be getting books out, and that's a good thing. And like you said, more than one book in a shelter is a good thing.
Absolutely.
One is a good start, but more than one is better.
Right,
You know?
exactly. And so I want to remind people we're talking to Eric Westover with, he's with Send Out Cards. He has his own travel agency. He's in South Carolina. He works with Great Danes. He started a sanctuary, and he works with amputees, addicts, and recovering addicts. And he's an amazing, amazing individual. He has decided to come on board and be part of the elephant herd with Beaten to Badass. If you would like to join us and really making an impact on those that have been impacted by domestic violence and sexual assault, being the light in their darkness, reach out to either one of us. Eric has all the information. He can guide you. I can guide you. Share this video, like, comment. Also, we want to really stress, and I know Eric and I have talked about this before, we really want to stress that if you want to sponsor a book, to go to an individual, you can do that too. It doesn't have to go to a shelter. If you know a friend or a family member or someone who is struggling with being beaten down, you can also get a book for them as a gift, and you can have it, you know, sponsored under your name, and you can put a note in it, or we can send it to you to give to them. But we just want to make sure that this message and this book and this cause is really going to those that need to hear it, because without your support, without your encouragement, without liking and sharing this video or reaching out to us, we don't know how we can help bigger and better and make a bigger impact together without knowing what you need from us. And so I know that Eric will be more than happy to have a conversation with you if you feel more comfortable with him. I'll have a conversation with you, but you can sponsor a shelter. You can go to beatentobadass.com, and I'll put the link in the comments after this, or you can reach out to one of us and we can guide you right to where you need to be. Eric, thank you so much for jumping on live with me. Do you have any final thoughts or any advice or wisdom you'd like to share?
Well, thanks for having me on. You know, I'm definitely, this is such a great, you know, organization, and I'm so happy to be involved with you. Don't be shy about getting involved. You know, like Erin said, reach out to either one of us, go to her website, but don't hold back. This is such an important issue and such an important mission to be on. So, you know, check it out. If you missed part of this, go back, watch the rest of it. Definitely contact Erin. Contact myself if you need anything. But, you know, like Erin said, either of us are happy to have a conversation with you. Jump on, get in the herd, be part of this. It's definitely an issue that needs to be out there, and definitely get a copy of Erin's book and read it. You know, it's you have to read it, understand it, you know, and see what it's all about as well. But get out there, sponsor some shelters, and become part of the herd. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and stop live streaming to Facebook. But if you have any questions, reach out to one of us and we will get you what we need to get you. Thank you so much for watching.
Bye, guys.